Maxton. I am going to do a first. I'm going to do a video review of some of the coolest books of poetry that I've read in the past year or so. I am here in Philadelphia. I've been here for a week now, and as you can see in the background, I'm still organizing a lot of the things, and I'm still waiting for the bed to arrive, which arrives this Friday. But anyways, I thought I would do something interesting, a book review on video, because I hate writing as much as I love writing, as odd as that sounds. And so I have 5 books here, and I'm going to do a brief review of, and then each author is going to read a poem from that book. They were kind enough to call and do that. So let's get started. The first book I'm going to review is called Inheritance by Stephen Rains. He is a poet and educator living in Los Angeles. This book just came out earlier this spring, 2010, and while it is beautifully written, it is an extremely sad book, and being autobiographical, I can't help but feel so much pain for Stephen based on what I've read in this book. The poems are beautiful, just absolutely beautiful. Stephen has a wonderful further career ahead of him in poetry. He's been around for quite some time. This is his first book, and I believe 10 years. It is available by Leith Press, and you can also check it out at stephenrains.com. And here's Stephen reading the very chilling but beautiful poem, The Dead.
The Dead. I read his obituary. Not only will he never breathe, eat, or sleep, he will never fuck. I remember the hot tub, his wandering hands, and I feel honored to have shared that with him. I've shared sex with so many who are now dead. Been there to give a moment of pleasure to a shortened life, knowing them in ways their mourning mothers couldn't have known, knowing their bodies, not like the back of my hand or hometown, but as a quick destination I'd visit for adventure, excitement, ejaculation. I knew their bodies when they had pulses, when their heartbeats quickened and their chests heaved with the intensity of orgasm. To desire them now feels odd, as the very vessel I lusted for decomposes. And when one of our sexual scenes flashes through my mind during masturbation, I appease my guilt, remind myself that this is a way I knew them, an ex-lover's way of honoring the dead and honoring the places I touched that cannot be touched again.
The poetry I'm going to tell you about briefly is by Shaindel Beers, and it is called A Brief History of Time. It is available by Salt Publishing at saltpublishing.com. The poetry in this collection is very normal, but very enchanting. And I don't consider myself an expert on poetry. I just report on what I find absolutely mesmerizing. And this is one of the books, probably one of the best books of poetry I've ever read, maybe one of the best books in general that I've ever read. Her poetry captures everyday things as well as emotions that we don't necessarily speak about to other people. She captures it all, and she puts these in these poems that are just, I don't know, I just didn't want them to end. When I finished this book, I wanted to write her and say, please, please, please send me your next manuscript. I'm dying to read it. But of course I didn't, because I'm not like that. But I can wait, and I will definitely be waiting for her second book. So, A Brief History of Time by Shaindel Beers. And here's Shaindel reading one of my favorite poems from the book called Wind Advisory.
Wind Advisory. That year I loved you most. It seemed like it was windy all the time. That year I loved you most. Windows rattled. 60-mile-per-hour gales keened over every surface as we took refuge in our bed. Slept so much we couldn't fight. The year I loved you most was 5 years ago, and it seems safe to love you again. Last night's storm reminded me how small I used to feel cradled against you, and how big the world seems even now, and how I still love you enough to want to join you under the autumn leaf-covered ground of Oak Hill Cemetery, small and insignificant, as if we were still hiding under covers.
The book is Scavenge by R.J. Gibson. It was just released by Seven Kitchens Press. You can find out more at sevenkitchenspress.blogspot.com. I was not familiar with RJ's poetry prior to this book. I was very familiar with his blog, but not his poetry. When I saw that this chapbook was out, I immediately requested a copy, and I'm glad I did. The poems are elegant, and they really let you into what he's thinking. A lot of times people are, when they look at poetry, they're like, I don't get it, I don't understand it, what does it mean? Well, unfortunately people get that feeling, but with this you won't get that feeling. The poems are amazing, and I look forward to reading a full collection from him, which I see coming within a couple years. This poetry and this poet, R.J. Gibson, is just too good to not have a collection out there. It is the winner of a Robin Becker Chapbook Prize, selected by Ruth Schwartz. And here's R.J. reading my favorite poem from the book, called The Edge of the Human.
The Edge of the Human. Today the roof didn't glow orange and hexagons didn't dance across the ceiling. I ate 5 times and didn't vomit. I avoided the paths of traffic, smoked 3 packs, masturbated 4 times. I walked the dog to the post office and didn't flinch when Ty the peeper said, I bet your mom is glad to have you home. Today I smiled at myself in the mirror and almost meant it. Today I recognized despair, yesterday desire. I saw the dry brambles overtaking the remains of the hog house, the chicken coop. I tended the plants, deadheading the forced hyacinths and narcissus. I almost answered the phone. I watched the light on the barn's tin roof, the growing spread of rust. Today I didn't itch. My throat didn't dry out. I never feared I'd choke. I made a note to sew nasturtiums. I wanted to see what could be. A green mound shot through with tiny fires and baby pumpkins.
Is actually another chapbook, but nonetheless as important and beautiful. It's called Elria, or Elria, depending on your the way you pronounce your vowels. Point A in Ohio Triangle. Ohio Triangle being a work in progress, the other points being Cleveland and Kent. It is by poet and author Alex Gildzen, who was born in California and raised in Ohio. He now lives in Santa Fe. These poems are very nostalgic. Alex is a wonderful way of capturing passing time and the years gone by. And my favorite poem in this book is called Ford at Cascade Park, which I've asked Alex to read. I would highly recommend checking this book out. It is published by Crisis Chronicles at press.crisischronicles.com. And once again, here's Alex reading Ford at Cascade Park.
Ford at Cascade Park. Dad's old Chevy would slow, burp, stop. Then the magic. That car would seem to float through the water to the other side. In my middle years, I'd cross the ford again in my mind. Boy's trip forward becomes man's journey back. Just as the river never stops, I'm always crossing.
The last, but certainly not least, book in this video review is one of the most beautiful collections of poetry ever written. It was a runner-up, it was a finalist for the Lambda Literary Award, and it is called The Brother Swimming Beneath Me by poet Brent Goodman of Wisconsin. These poems, I've read this book 20 times, no exaggeration, I've read it 20 times. I received it in March 2009. And it is August 2010. I've read it at least 20 times, if not more. Every time I read this book, I find something new in a poem that I didn't see before, and that's what makes me keep this book on my nightstand. I haven't put it on the shelf. I haven't, put it away. This book stays on my nightstand. His poetry is just absolutely riveting and beautiful. The poem that struck me the most is called Love Letter, and here's Brent Goodman reading it. The book is available by Black Lawrence Press, blacklawrencepress.com, and if you haven't added this book to your collection, I would highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. Once again, here's Brent Goodman reading Love Letter.
You never sing along anymore when I belt out show tunes in the living room, or steady your blocking when I leap into your arms from atop the creaking armoire. Dearest dear, the cats demand an encore. This take, pretend not to notice I'm not wearing any knickers. And action. The olives in my martini lean forward. You just glare at me like a lost line. Haven't we been rehearsing this goddamn performance upwards 15 years now?